All right, so there are three different types of housing markets. So housing markets. All right, there are three types. All right, so the first, which what we're in right now, is a seller's market. And it's a hyper seller's market. All right. The next type of market is a balanced market. All right. And then the other is a buyer's market. Okay. All right. So we are in this one right here. Right. What this market means is that people are willing to pay more money than what a home is worth. Right. And there are several reasons why people will pay more than what a home is worth. Interest rates have driven why people will pay more than a home is worth. Interest rates, inventory, lack of inventory, right? So not a lot of homes on the market, maybe only one per neighborhood, right? So that's what we're in right now. And what oftentimes people think is that we go from a seller's market directly to a buyer's market, and people don't understand that we actually go to a balanced market first, right? So we go from from a seller's market to a buyer's market. To a seller's market to a balanced market to a buyer's market. Let me explain what a buyer's market is. A buyer's market is when someone will pay exactly what a home is worth, right? So remember, in a hyper seller's market, there's some, like in Manassas, we put a home on the market and it was worth $450, right? Someone was willing to pay $480, right? So they were willing to pay roughly 5% more than what the market is, right? And the market value of this home is. In a balanced market, someone is willing to pay exactly what the home is worth. So if the home is worth $475, that's what they're going to pay, okay? Now, in a buyer's market, there's a misnomer. There's people oftentimes think that in a buyer's market you pay less for a home. Well, in most buyer's market, it's not about what the buyer is going to pay, it's what the seller is going to net, right? So the seller in a buyer's market, right, will net less money. They'll net less money. It doesn't necessarily mean that the buyer is going to pay less. Okay, and let me explain what this means, right? So here in this area, in a buyer's market, it doesn't necessarily mean that someone's going to pay, if the home is worth $475, that as a buyer, you're going to get it for $475, right? What it actually means is that the buyer's going to have more leverage to get things, right? To get things that they need to buy this $475,000 house. So we're in a balanced market or a seller's market. The buyer couldn't ask for closing costs. This buyer might be able to ask for $12,000 in closing costs, right? In a seller's or a balanced market, a buyer might be able to get home inspection items that cost the seller, let's say $5,000, right? So when you're thinking about a buyer's market, right, the seller actually is going to net less money, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the buyer is going to pay less for the home, right? So this seller is going to end up paying end up netting $17,000 less, right? When they sell their home in a buyer's market, right? Rather than be able to get 5% more in a hyper seller's market, or get an absolute net of $475 when they sell in a balanced market. So when we start to talk to people as agents and we start to talk about markets, understand that we will not go from a hyper seller's market directly to a buyer's market. We may spend 2 to 3 years here in more of a balanced market, and then we may get to a buyer's market, but that's not necessarily going to mean that you're going to pay less for a home. All right. So I know we're talking about a lot of heady things. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Shout out to David Sands for this style of video. I kind of dig it, and I hope that this makes it easy for you guys to understand as well. Alan Johnson with the AJ team. You have the dream, and we have, that's a terrible house. We have the address. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.